Yeah, hello guys. I'd like to hear you. I have Taiwo and Dini here, and it's nice meeting you today. Can you confirm you can hear me properly? Can you still hear me clearly?
Yes, I can still hear you.
All right, awesome, awesome. So, thank you. So today we're considering the product life cycle and the role of designers, and then the subtopic is how designers should adapt in each cycle. So product life cycle, role of designers, and how designers should adapt to each cycle. All right, a little intro about me. Um, my journey into design began as far back as 2010 when I was first introduced to the world of design, graphics design generally. And from there, I was able to build, transitioned into a brand, and now I'm more domiciled in product design, right? Whereas I still consider myself a kind of I like to use the word a warrior, right? With many tools in his arsenal. So I tend to bring out a weapon depending on the kind of enemy I want to defeat. The enemy being the project now, right? But I'm more domiciled as a product designer, but I still do other things within strategy, brand, graphics. Yeah, so I still work within that area. I'm a polymath, right? What does this mean? So if you see me online as maybe releasing a music, a song, right? You see me on an album cover, right? Don't be surprised. I also do music. I also teach. I also teach across different areas. Yeah, and then currently I'm a product designer at Bonds, where I work as product designer and visual designer, right? But I also consult and freelance with different organizations. I've worked with both national and international organizations where I've been able to help them scale their solutions or to help them design experiences that people really love, right? Experiences that shape whatever perceptions they want to have and also drive their business goals, right? So that's an intro about me, right? And yeah, that's the picture of myself, right? Typically, right? Yeah, I just think I like this picture more. I have a picture in Polo. I just feel okay. I like this picture more, right? Maybe somebody likes it as well. Yeah. So let's just get right into it. So let's go back to the topic. The topic says the product life cycle and the role of the site designers and how designers should adapt in each cycle. From the communique I got from going right, I think it mentioned that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, okay. Let me continue then. All right. Just edit sound. All right. So from the communique I got from communication I got with doing, you guys must have done um, the product life cycle, right? Product life cycle. Among during my training, right? I got a certification as a product manager, and I've been able to do one or two things along that line, right? So now is your turn, right? I've spoken about myself, but I would love to hear you. What's your role as a designer? I know I have two persons on the call, so I'd love to hear you guys. Let's make it interactive, brief, short, and straight to the point. So I think everybody would have to speak. What's your role? What do you think? What's your perspective about your own role as a designer? So I'd love to hear from everybody if there's no problem with that. Who wants to go first? I will.
Let me go first.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Okay. So I feel like my role as a designer is not just limited to like Figma or like just visual design. I feel like my role and the things I'm used to is starting like the entire end-to-end process. So, like before we ever get into design, when you get like you get not doing like deep market analysis like all those product managers, but like understanding what the problem is, like understanding like from the bird's eye view, basically like the entire like story, so that when the brief now or the PRD now finally comes on your table, you have like a board and you understand why they are building it, why it is necessary, like you have all the knowledge that you need basically. And then even when the building or sorry, when the development and everything is done, I still understand that post product, like when you have launched and whatever, you still need like a designer. Like I still need to be there to help with feedbacks, because if the customers are not enjoying the product in that sense, it could bring issues, especially with business basically. So I feel like my role like starts from before design to after design basically.
I like that response. But I would have loved that you responded last. But it's okay. So who wants to go next? Are you able to speak? Anybody? Anybody wants to speak? Taiwo Adeni. Just let me know if you're not able to speak. You can just use the chat section. So the question is, what's your role as a designer? Matthew just joined us. Wow, no response.
Well, I think you can
Okay,
just okay.
I think I can. You want to say I can just go on, right?
Yes, if there's no response, you can just
All right, that's fine. That's fine then. I like your response and how you've been able to think from a bird's eye view, like you said, right? So you are more than a pixel pusher. You are more than a pixel pusher. You're not just another thinker. You're not just someone who your boss will say, yes, we want to design this, just go and design it. So you're not just supposed to actually be focused on how your design looks, the colors you want to use, the text you want to use, the font you want to use, or the type you want to use, or the colors, or whatnot, like elements, assets, images, right? It's your work is actually beyond that. It is beyond that. So that's why UX or product design is sort of different from graphics or brand in some way, right? But each of them they have their own goals, right? But for product or UX design, it's more than just aesthetics, how beautiful your UI is. Recently I've been seeing a lot of people who are focusing more on how their UI looks, they'll be using grays. But I've been seeing that looking at it, the grays are not accessible, their colors are not accessible, the contrast is too poor. And users would have problem when those designs are actually developed. So your designs have implications. Your designs have implications. Your choice of color, your choice, your decision about where the button is actually placed have an implication. Your um uh, like you are deciding to add an icon or you deciding not to add an icon actually has an implication. So there is a meaning, there's an implication to everything that you actually do. And so you are more than a pixel pusher. That should bring to your mind that everything I do is meaningful, and I am not supposed to just make decisions without having any rationale or reason behind it. Of course, there will be some design decisions that will just be cosmetic or aesthetics based, but your design should be largely focused on achieving a goal, right? And then, don't you also mention that there's a process before designing and there's something after designing, right? So the UI or the pixels is in between. There's something should drive your UI, and your UI should actually drive something, which is the UX. Insights should drive your UI, your user interface, and your user interface drives the UX. There can be no UX without UI. every UI has a UX. But some UIs are not inside driven, right? And the gap is broken. So it has to be insight driving UI and UI driving the UX. So if you want to get a great UX, you have to sort your UI and your insight right. You have to get it right. So the insights can be business insight, can be user insight, can be customer insight, can be psychology insight. What do I mean by insight? After you've carried out the research, you've understood what the user needs are, and you're able to make inference or judgment or decisions based on that, and you are now using it to influence where the button is. You know, companies like Google spend a lot of resources in determining the position of their buttons because they've come to understand that everything has an application. And what does this mean as a designer, right? It means as a designer, you are not supposed to have visual skills. You're supposed to also have conceptual skill, having the ability to see things in a bigger picture, a bird's eye view, like Loye called it, right? A bird's eye view. You should be able to see things far and wide. You shouldn't just sit at the level of your design. You should be able to see before your design and even after. What happens after? Okay, when the user comes to play with this interface or UI that I've designed, what happens? This flow that I've designed, what happens? Right? So you should be able to actually see further than the design that you've actually mentioned. So as a designer, you have to actually be a big picture thinker. You have to be a big picture thinker. You have to be a system thinker. And sincerely, I'll tell you this, that the product lifecycle is not necessarily meant for the product manager. It is meant for everyone who is actually involved in shaping products. So as a product designer, as a UX designer, you are shaping products, and these things ought not to be limited to some persons within the role, right? Within the organization or within the team. You are a crucial part of the product life cycle. You are not just on your own. You are impacted. And so you need to understand that your job isn't just done when you are designing. It is done across the life cycle. All right. So you are more than a pixel pusher, right? Now let's go into the introduction. I know, can I confirm you've actually considered what product life cycle is, right?
No, you can run us straight. You can run us straight as a reminder.
All right, awesome. So the product life cycle, the introduction, growth, maturity, and then decline. So what's the introduction all about, right? You are trying to, please ignore the subtext under introduction, growth, maturity. So we'll look more into that. So what's the product life cycle? It's basically the stages of growth and decline. So a product life cycle is both growth and decline. You know, one of the ways that the product life cycle was actually abstracted was from the human life. Everybody is born and everybody dies. So all products are born and some products die. Some products live, but we don't know if they will live forever, right? So they are still living, right? But we know some products die. Skype has just sunset, right? Microsoft decided that they are going to sunset Skype. Skype is not going to continue, right? So yeah, product dies, right? And then the product life cycle is that stage between growth and decline. So it's from the stage of being introduced to users and it being discontinued, right? So it continues along that process. Some people might not include this being discontinued, right? Being introduced, right, to growth phase. Some people have different definition, but I think this actually captures the whole idea of the product life cycle. All right. So growth, decline, introduction, and then decline, or being this. One of the decisions after decline is, are we discontinuing or we are pivoting? That's something you want to think about, right? So now, why is this important for designers? Actually, why should we consider the role of product designers along the product life cycle, right? Why should we consider that? Because designers actually shape the product experience at every stage. So your work is at different stages. You need to be aware of that. You know, I said earlier that the product designer should be a systems thinker. You should be able to put structure into what you are doing. So from today, if you are not a designer who tends to think in structure, you need to actually learn to do that. You need to learn to think through systems, learn to think through processes. So you shape the product experience at every stage. We'll talk more in depth about how you actually do this, right? And then why is it important for us to actually discuss this? Because adaptation is key to relevance and impact. So if you want to still be relevant across the life cycle of a product, you need to adapt. You can't continue to do the same along the product life cycle. What you are doing today, because products, they live and they die, they grow, they decline. They are different phases. And so if you keep doing the same thing, you are not going to actually experience something. It's a popular narrative that you can't expect to keep doing the same thing and expect a new result, right? Just like let me use a child now, right? When a child grows, when a child is giving birth to, you feed the child milk, right? Milk, the child, you feed the milk. I would have loved that I'm getting responses, but cool. I'll just continue. So when a child is giving birth to, what you can only feed the child is milk. Milk for long, and then begin to give the child a taste of some solid food, right? And then it grows to some point where, yes, some food are now can now eat any food, say between 12 and then above, right? But when somebody grows to maybe 70 or even 40 or 50, there are some foods that are not recommended again, right? That tells you the impact of what you are imputing at every apologies. That tells you the impact of what you are imputing at every phase. Can you see hear me? Can you confirm that?
Yes.
All right. So that should tell you that you need to know what to do at every phase. And this is one of the reasons why you are actually valuable as a product designer. If you are not able to put these things in perspective, you are not able to convince employees about your value. Right? The truth is this, right? There are some companies that you'll be employed, there will be no product managers. Yes, there will be no product managers. You are the product designer, and you are the sole contributor to the product side of things. And so who comes to bail you out there? Or would you even be employed? That's something to think about, right? And whereas there are some companies you get into that there's a product manager, but let me tell you, 95% of designers don't start working in a company where there's a product manager. Or maybe my 95% is too stretched, right? A large percentage of designers don't get to work in a company where there's a product manager at their early stage. I was lucky to actually work with a product manager at my entry-level phase, right? And I was able to adapt and see how things were. Although I had trained myself in product management a while back before then, right? But the truth is this: there are very, very few designers who would get to work in a structured system, in a company where there is structure. That's the truth. So there'll be a lot of chaos. And you're expected to bring order by your understanding of these key things. So I would like that you pay attention as we get along. I hope I've made sense so far. Let me know. Give me feedback. You can react. You can say something. I hope I've made sense so far. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So now let's go on. Now, the stages of the product life cycle. Some people say it's 4, some people say it's 5, right? Depending. But now let's look at the stages of the product life cycle. And then number 1 is introduction, right? You know that until a product launches, the product life cycle has not actually begun. Until a product launches, the product life cycle has not actually begun. They are still shaping it, right? But there are a lot of products these days that are being built, but they never get launched, never get introduced to users. Users never get to use them. but some get to beta, right? That's some level of launch. But some don't even get launched. But until they are launched, right, there's no, the product life cycle has really not begun. So there has to be a launching and a market entry, right? And then the second phase is growth, and that's expansion and adoption, right? More users get to adopt it, expansion, right? And then there's maturity, right? The market saturation and competition, where you get to actually win over the competition at that piece, at that phase, right? And then there's decline, decreased demand. And what can happen is that it can either shut down or evolve by, that's why this fifth stage is not usually focused on, right? So that's why renewal and invention. Okay, if you pivot, but if you don't pivot, you just die, natural death. You're not continuing, but just like Skype just did now, right? So this is the product life cycle. I hope I was clear. Any questions so far? Or should just go ahead?
Well, none for now.
All right, let's keep at it. So now let's consider the role of designers across every stage of the product life cycle. I hope I'm not too fast. Let me know if I'm too fast or I should slow down.
The pace is okay.
Okay. All right, cool. This is okay, cool. All right. So let's consider the role of designers in the introduction stage. So what do you do at the introduction stage, right? One thing that is key here is you need to build a strong foundation, right? Although, sincerely, right, things are not quite clear at the introduction phase. A lot of products we are still trying to figure out product market fit, right? Trying to figure that out, right? But it is very, very necessary that you actually build a strong foundation. And how do you achieve this, right? So from the design point of view, right? Like I said, there are companies where the product manager handles the side of things, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the understanding of this, because in most cases there will be no PM to research. There will be no user researcher. Even the role of a PM is usually different from the user researcher at times, right? Where you have a more elaborate structure, or you have the user researcher, you have the UX writer, you have the UI designer, even in some cases. In some cases, the UI designer is different from the UX designer, right? And then in some cases too, the interaction designer is different. So it's not always the same structure. But one key thing that is important at the introduction stage is you need to build a strong foundation. You need to build a strong foundation. And how do you do that? One, you need to research. Whatever research method you are using, whatever process, whatever number of users you decide to actually, you need to understand the problem and the audience. Very, very key. You don't solve a problem, you cannot solve a problem you don't understand rightly. You cannot solve a problem you don't understand rightly. You cannot solve a problem you don't understand well. You cannot solve it well if you don't understand the problem. You'd rather be making guesses. That's the best chance. That's the best thing you're going to do. You're making guesses and you waste a lot of effort. So you need to understand the problem and the audience, right? So the problem is different from the needs, right? The needs are different. The user need is always different from the problem at times. Okay, this is the problem. And for example, when I think Spotify was actually built, right? There was that time of, okay, radio, right? So the problem was, okay, how do we get to actually have a lot of songs in our pockets, right? And then the iPod came into place, and then that was Mark's product, right? And then it continually evolved till Spotify became the order of the or other streaming platforms, right? So you need to understand the problem, you need to understand the audience, and then MVP is minimum viable product. There are other abbreviations that are used these days. Minimum lovable products, MLP, the other abbreviations. But it is very, very important that you don't spread yourself too wide. You need to spread yourself thin at this phase. You need to focus on the core functionalities or solutions that you want to build. You don't have to build all the solutions at every phase. You can iterate. That's the point of iteration, and that's the point of the product lifecycle. Sincerely, some product owners or some CEOs want to cramp all of the features at once, right? That's where you now need to learn stakeholder management or collaboration with your stakeholder, right? But it is very important at this phase that you focus on the core functionality of the product. You don't have to do too much. A few features, nail them spot on, and refine and build, right? That's it. That's how it is, right? Refine, iterate, build, go back, test, yeah, right? And then the next key thing that's important is the brand and UI UX design. Typically, I wouldn't write UI UX design here, but I just like to use it. There's nothing like UI UX design. It's UX design. UI is part of UX, right? So first impressions matter. Why do you have to pay attention to the design on the brand side? Because really, the brand influences the UI, the logo, the colors, the type, the influence. In some companies you can decide to choose your type, right? But typically, in a very, very good sense, the brand should integrate with the UX. You shouldn't just choose a new font for a brand that already has a font system or a typography system, right? You should stay aligned, right? And that contributes to your first impression. So at the introduction phase, the first impressions matter, really, really matters. So you need to test and iterate at this point, get feedback and adjust, right? And at this phase, how you need to adapt as a designer, and you need to embrace uncertainty. Things are not clear. So just accept it that there are many things you might not know. Yes, there are many things you might not know. And then you also need to be flexible. So don't just say, this is how I want to get it done. This is how it will be done. And that's very important for product owners or the product champions, people contributing to the product. You need to be flexible. And then one key thing, you need to prioritize usability at this point. Yes, business is important, right? You need to prioritize business too. But at this phase, at the introduction phase, usability is more important because why? If your product is not usable, you are not able to get buy-in. The market will not embrace you. Users will not embrace you. Users will not love you. And if you can't even make the users enjoy your product, what do you have? Nothing. You have nothing. You have nothing. You have nothing really. So I'm going to cite a case study of a product or a company, right? At this phase, and that's Airbnb. How many of us know Airbnb? Let me know if you know Airbnb. How familiar are you with Airbnb? Okay, cool. Doing says is familiar. I don't know if Adeni not here following, but let's keep at it. So Airbnb is a product that helps people, right, to kind of rent out their apartments or their spaces to people at an hourly rate or daily rate, right, depending on the case, right? So they are able to facilitate renting, and at their early stage, right, they had a challenge. They struggled to attract users, right? And why? That's why you need to understand the problem. When you launch and then you don't understand the problem, you are not able to address it. So the problem was that they struggled to attract users. And why? The concept of renting a stranger's home was unfamiliar and risky. Someone you don't know, how will you go and rent their house? So it was unfamiliar, it was risky at that point. So people are not used to it. People are not willing to go and trust somebody they don't know. How will I be living with somebody that I didn't know, right? So what did they do at that point? What were their actions? They researched. The founders personally visited hosts to understand their pain points. The hosts and the people who are likely to actually rent, to understand their pain points. But the hosts were kind of more important. At that point, they were able to identify the kind of users. They had hosts and they had people who were coming to rent, right? Who were coming to stay in the host's apartment, right? And then one other thing they focused on was MVP design. So they started simple. Like I said, you don't have to focus on a lot of things. So what they focus on as an MVP is that they focus on ability to list properties. So once they were able to solve that, they moved on. And another thing that was crucial at this phase was the use of high quality images. See, for you to convince people who are coming to rent an apartment or pay the money, they need to be convinced by the level of images, what they are seeing. You know, that's why you need to understand the kind of product you are building. Is it an image-oriented product? People need to see, just like e-commerce, right? Image is quite important. High quality image is quite important in e-commerce industry, right? So they hire professional photographers to improve their listing photos and to boost the bookings. Another thing that was very key was the trust and safety UX. People needed to trust them. So, and then they incorporated user reviews fast. So user reviews, people could drop reviews of places they had stayed. People could also needed to verify their profile as well. You know, if the profiles are not verified, people are not able to trust, right? And then secure payments were also built in to actually build trust. So the outcome of this was that they improved trust, and this led to higher adoption, allowing Airbnb to scale. You need to get used to these languages as a product designer. So you shouldn't just talk in terms of colors, fonts that you are using. These things don't really move product owners or product champions, right? People who are willing to employ you, or even your the IRM manager. You need to use business terms, adoption, scale, right? Churn rates, all of these things. But these are things you can learn along the line. Now we move to the growth stage, the role of designers at the growth stage. And then the key focus of this phase, after you've entered the market and then you've got some adoption, is to scale and to optimize. So what do you do at this phase? You need to enhance the UX. You need to enhance the UX. You need to refine the interactions and user flow. Okay, is this user flow too long? Should we reduce it? What should we add? What kind of interactions should we add that will make this more delightful for the users, right? These are things to consider. Also, new features, very, very key. Okay, what features should we add? And this should not be random. It should not be randomized. And that's why data is important. You need to prioritize it based on data. So prioritization of solutions is very important, or features is very important. You need to, maybe you want to use a prioritization matrix or whatever it is that you want to use based on data. What are our users saying? What features are our users requesting? And then at this phase also, visual consistency is quite important. You need to strengthen the design language. You know, Bolt did this recently. After Bolt became successful, I think they enhanced their design language. They changed their color in some way. They were still using green, right? But the green was a little different. They optimized it, right? And then they added 3D elements, 3D visual assets. And then the conversion optimization is quite important also. You need to design for engagement and retention. So this time you are not focused on aesthetics, you are not focused on beautiful UIs, beautiful pictures. You are now focused on engagement and retention, right? You need to engage the user. You need to start talking to users, right? Making them to come back to the platform, either through the focus is scaling and optimizing, and then the goal is for UX to be enhanced. I already mentioned how to do the get this done, enhance the UX, to refine the interaction and the user flow, right? Look at, okay, should we reduce this the user journey, right? What API parts are we to use, or what parts are we to actually follow based on research? And then new features should actually be added at this point, right? And that's why you shouldn't actually cram all of the features within a product. But depending on the market, right, you need to also approach this based on market, right? If if you are entering a market that is that has been ongoing for long, that didn't just start, right? You shouldn't end up with less features than what's already existing. if it's not reasonable, actually, because you want to compete. You want to compete, but let's not go deeper into that. You need to prioritize the features based on data. You need to also ensure there's visual consistency here. You need to strengthen design language. I mentioned both looking into their visual system, optimizing their colors, going in a different direction with their 3D elements. And then also I mentioned conversion. Conversion is quite key. Conversion. So you don't just focus on users who were onboarded, right, and just leave them there. You need to engage them to either convert them to active users or find out if what the problem is and then let them go. But you have to continue engagement activities, right? Retention, continuous marketing, either through email, SMS, push notifications or in-app notifications, right? These things are actually quite key for conversion. So these are another word on its own, right? But at this phase, these things are quite key. But at this phase, also, like I said, it's very important that you balance aesthetics with performance. You need to balance aesthetics with performance. Okay, how heavy are our assets? How is it affecting the load time for our products, if it's a web product, or even if it's a product response time, right, for mobile apps or whatever it is, right? But and it's also important that you stay data driven at this phase, right? Why should you even stay data driven at this point? Because you have the data. At the introduction phase, you don't even have any data. Users have not interacted with the product. You've not got any feedback, right? You've not tested a lot, so you don't have a lot of data. But at this point, you have data. So why not maximize your data? You need to stay data driven. And the truth is this: products who are data driven have more results than products who are not. And this is quite key at this phase. Now let's go to the next phase, and that's the okay. Before going there, we go to the case study. All right, so go to the case study now, and the case study for scaling and optimizing is Instagram. Before we go to the maturity, Instagram, right? So at the point where Instagram had, they had a lot of users, they had onboarded a lot of users, but there was need to engage, like I mentioned, there was need to engage. There was need to keep people, the whole purpose of engagement is that you retain your customer retention or user retention. That's the whole purpose. You need to retain users. So users should not just come and then they just use your product in once in a month, right? These are things that Instagram has achieved. Every day you are going to Instagram now. Every day you are going there. Every day you are going there. You are checking what's up and all of those things, right? And these were some of the things they did. So they gained early traction, but they needed to keep users engaged while scaling. Scaling is the focus of this phase. So what did they do? They expanded their feature at that phase, at that time, right? At that time, they expanded their feature. They introduced filters, right? You upload your pictures, you're able to change how your picture looks. You're able to enhance it in some way. Yeah, and based on psychology, that works. User psychology. People like to see a false image of themselves. Let me put it that way in quotes, right? People like to see a false image of themselves. Let me put it in quotes, right? You love it when you see an enhanced version of yourself, right? So they introduced filters, and that must have been data driven. And then they also introduced the Explore tab, where people are able to see a lot of things, spend more time. So this increased the time spent on the app. So this increases, and that's one of the purposes of engagement. Also, they refined their UI. At that point, this was not Instagram's logo. The logo looked more 3D. In fact, looked more 3D. So it was a camera icon that was 3D. I couldn't show that. So they shifted from the skeuomorphic camera icon to a more minimal design. Simple, right? Simple this. And that also impacted their UI. Everything became simple, minimal. I think this was at the point Meta actually acquired them. I can't. I didn't have enough data on that to actually confirm that. So The next thing is performance optimization. You know, for an app like Instagram, right? Every content, pictures, videos, every content. So they needed to look at things from a technical point POV. So as a product designer, you're able to actually look at, okay, what are the things I can actually bring on board to actually improve the UX at this phase? So, okay, what are the things that the users are likely to struggle with? Okay, image loading times, or when you've even tested based on what you, okay, my image takes time to load, the video takes time to play. So these are the things that you should actually improve. So they improve the speed and the image loading times to ensure a seamless experience. And one of the other things they did or focused on was that they enhanced social features, tagging, hashtags, stories. So once they added these features, right, boom, it was like adding petrol to fire. Everything just blew. Their engagement or their retention blew. So they even onboarded more users at that point. So even at this phase, right, even as you are improving your retention, adoption or new users are able to also come in, because once you actually improve the experience, once you give users good experience, they'll talk about your product, right? So the outcome was that the user engagement skyrocketed, right? And Instagram became the go-to photo sharing app. And then these attracted Facebook's acquisition. Facebook, before they became Meta, attracted them at that point. So while they were working on that, Facebook was already spotting them and they were seeing the opportunities. So the opportunities are quite wide if you can focus on this. So at this growth phase is where some companies or products are acquired, because they've been able to prove the viability of the value of their product in the market, right? I hope I'm clear. Can I go ahead? Some reactions?
Yeah, you can.
All right,
Yes,
awesome.
please.
Awesome. So now let's go to the next phase, and that's the maturity stage. The maturity stage or maturity phase. And what is your role as a designer? But a caveat here, right? Typically, right, you are not to work alone across these phases. There will be inputs across board, right? But you are contributing to each of these stages. So your contribution to each of these things. So when you have a cross-functional team, they're able to bring on different ideas. They're able to collaborate and refine, brainstorm to come up with these things. But you are a key contributor across board, right? So at the maturity stage, what happens? What happens at the maturity stage? So one key thing is differentiation and efficiency. You know, like I mentioned, I tried to define maturity. So the goal of maturity stage is market saturation and competition. So there'll be competition. You know, for innovative products at this phase, to be sincere, for innovative products, when you get to maturity stage, you see more people even entering the market to compete with you. So you begin to see more people competing with you because you've been able to prove that this product is worth building, and so other people want to actually come in. They've done their computer analysis, they've done their market research, they've seen gaps, and they want to come in and also take a share of the market, right? So it's very crucial that you are not redundant on that point. You want to continue, you want to level up on the efforts that you've actually built on, that you've given into the product so far. So what do you do at this phase? Like I said, there's competition, there are other similar products. So one thing you need to focus on is differentiation. So are you differentiating with your business model? Are you differentiating with your features? Whatever it is, based on the strategy that you adopt, right? As a product designer, actually, you should contribute to the strategy. You're not just designing UI. You might say you want to be a UI designer. That's fine, right? But if you want to be a UX designer or a product designer, you should contribute to strategy, how the product moves towards the goal, right? So differentiation and efficiency is important at this point.
So you are not just designing at this point, you are designing to stand out. You are designing things at an exceptional level that other products within the market cannot meet. And one of such companies that you can think of right now is Google. Google are designing at an highly exceptional level. You see their product, you are amazed. You want to use it. The intentionality, the craftsmanship, the research, the interactions, the soft interaction, right? These things really actually contribute to differentiation and efficiency, right? Efficiency improvement also. One, you can also double down on this, right? Streamlining the user journey. We talked about this in the previous phase, the previous stage also, but this can also continue to streamline the user journey, happy paths, reduce user flows, just ensuring that users enjoy the product better, or they have better experience with the product. The usability is better, the usefulness is better across the level, the desirability is better, right? All of these things are very, very key. And then design systems. So at this point, you need to ensure consistency at scale. And one thing I figured out recently is that, at the introduction phase, you are still trying to figure out companies shouldn't totally invest in a design system, because a design system actually takes a lot of time, takes a lot of resources. But whereas you are still trying to figure things out. So the effort to results, they are not really commensurate, right? Commensurate rather, right? It's not commensurate. So you want, at this phase, you want to now consider, okay, yes, now let's build our design system, because we've been able to attain product market fit, or we need to get some traction, right? So you want to ensure consistency at scale at this point. Some people now decide to add micro innovations, right? Micro interactions, small but impactful design changes. Who can give me an example of a product that has that recently? Personally, I love Apple. I love the interactions. I love the interactions with Apple. You over on an app, and then the size increases. That's an interesting thing. It's small, but really it's impactful. It enhances the UX, so the users are able to actually this is wow effect, right? And that contributes to how attached users are with your product. And to be sincere, Apple has nailed this. They are able to wow the customer at specific instances. It doesn't have to be big, little, small, but impactful design changes. So one of the things how you need to adapt here from as a designer, right, is you need to shift from major redesigns to fine-tuning. See, at this point, if you do a major redesign, you might lose customers, you might lose users. And sincerely, a CEO was sacked recently because of that. The CEO had moved that the whole product should be redesigned, and it was redesigned. And after it was redesigned and it entered the market back, they lost users. Users complained. There were a lot of complaints on the users. If it impacted their revenue literally sank. It entered without good, right? Sank. So you need to really evaluate things from a data point. You need to shift from major redesigns to fine-tuning things, and then you're able to maintain your relevance. You're able to maintain relevance. I hope I was clear with that. Now let's look at the case study. And the case study here is Netflix. Netflix. How many of us have a Netflix account? Netflix, you've used Netflix before. I think he is trying to say something. Oh, awesome. Matthew, awesome. You have a Netflix account. So you'll be able to relate with some of these things that I'm going to say here. So at the maturity phase, right? One thing Netflix focused on was they personalized their UX, their user experience. They personalized it. And what was the challenge? So like I said, competition is intense at this point. It's dog eat rat. Rat can never eat dog. So if you are the dog, you better eat the rat. That's the business world reality, right? There's the side of going redemptive, right? Redemptive business, right? But typically the situation of things is dog eat rat, cat eat rat, or how would I put it? So there was intense competition. Disney Plus was there, Hulu was there, Amazon Prime was there, and then they are competing for the same users, for the same number of people, right? The number of people is the same, and then Disney is there, Hulu is there, Amazon Prime is there, but Netflix got in the market before this people. Today on Netflix, you see some movies that are displayed with a poster, and then later on they are displayed on that poster. That's dynamic. Also, they use AI-driven recommendations, right? And based on what you've watched, or based on movies you've seen, the AI is able to actually recommend. So movies are not recommended to everybody the same way. So everybody is not recommend. You can build a product that everybody is seeing the same recommendation, right? But at this level now, Netflix made it possible that every user has a unique experience. That is personalization. Personalization according to the user's interests, according to what they watched over time, right? These are things that they were actually employed. Also, they work on their design system. And if you notice, their design is consistent across platforms, web, mobile, TV. You see the same thing. You see the same thing. And that's quite key at this phase. And then micro interactions or innovations. So they were able to use interactive storytelling for Black Mirror, Bandersnatch. You can check for that movie on Netflix or research about it online, right? And then also ease of use was improved at this point. So they made continuous improvements, such as autoplay previews, right? This was not there from the beginning. So once the user hovers on the movie thumbnail, it autoplays review, right? And then the users are not able to skip intro, right? So these are the things that they added that were not there from the beginning. So you need to think from the user POV. You need to understand, okay, what does the user want? And then you're able to make innovations based on that. And what was the outcome? Their retention and engagement was improved. And then their dominance also. One thing you need to keep in mind is the business as a designer. I can't overemphasize this. You need to keep business in mind. You need to keep business in mind. You need to keep business as you are designing. How does your design impact the downline? How does your design impact business? So with these things, with these little design changes and tweaks, it reinforces Netflix's dominance. They're able to actually own a larger percentage of the market. So don't just approach your design based on, my design is nice. Yes, there's a time for you to actually be happy that your design is fine, yes. But as you grow, you need to keep more impactful metrics in mind. Yeah, so that said, let's just go to the final stage, and that's the decline stage. The decline stage. What happens typically at this stage? Like I said, they are considering whether they want to evolve or to pivot or to even shut down. So at this point, there's decreased demand. Demand is decreased. So the churn rate is high, drop off is high, everything is just screaming red, 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 red. No income. No income. So how are they going to continue? So they have to make a decision. Okay, are we shutting down or we are pivoting? So these are some of the things. And then what does the designer do around this phase? All right. So like I said, are you going to reinvent? Are you going to pivot? Or are you going to exit gracefully, just like Skype? You know, Microsoft just considered and then they decided to exit gracefully. Yeah, Google has also taken some products of their product ecosystem, right? So it's not failure in a sense. You know, so these are things that they teach in business schools. But let me just say it. Some founders will have ego, and then I'll get into that with Nokia story very soon. We'll have ego, and then their business is struggling. They don't have revenue, but they still want to force things, especially maybe Nigerian founders. Don't tell anybody I said that. Don't tell anybody. I know we are still trying to build things, right? So so at this point, it's either reinvention, pivoting. Yeah, pivoting to another product. You know, I think there were products that did that recently. Yeah, well, my company actually did that at some point. They previously focused on preventing churn or user drop-off or recovering payments. Now they are more into customer engagement. So you need to know whether you are reinventing or you are gracefully exiting. So what do you do at this point? So if you are
Hello, Elijah.
Reinventing.
Sorry to interrupt, but we have just 10 minutes left.
Oh, we have 10 minutes left. So let me just go through this. So reinvention or graceful exit. So you can rebrand, modernize your design elements, can explore new markets. So adapt design for different user groups. And then you can design leaner, more efficient experience because you don't have a lot of cost. You can sunset, there's a sunset. So definitely you have to create a smooth offboarding experience. So one key thing as a designer is be open, don't be rigid, be flexible across board. Be able to major pivots or winning down. It's time to look for another job. It's time to look for another company in other news. All right. So at this, a case called the Nokia struggle and brand reinvention. So at that point, Nokia was the leader in the mobile phones market. Their logo has dropped off. Let me just use that point. The logo was used in time, but now it has dropped off. Right. So I know everybody knows Nokia. Do you know Nokia 3310? Some of us don't know Nokia 3310. But let me just continue. I'm not here for that. Right. So Nokia was the leader at that phase in the mobile phones market. But they didn't adapt. Adaptation is very key. And that costed them. Their sales declined. The brand lost their relevance. iPhones, Android came into place and swept the market. Everybody was buying Android. Right. So what were their actions? They rebranded. Microsoft acquisition led to UI overhaul with Windows Phone. So the Microsoft was able to entrench Nokia mobile phone into its own line of mobile phones, and they overhauled the UI, right? But it lacked app support somehow. And then they simplify also. The logo has shown now. So they simplified, right? And then they relaunched the Nokia 3310. And this was focused on nostalgia and simplicity instead of high-tech features, right? And that actually worked for them in some way. Also, they explored new markets. So they pivoted towards enterprise solutions and telecom infrastructure. What was the outcome? Although they lost their smartphone dominance, they were successful in the 5G and network infrastructure space. All right, so that's that for the decline phase. I hope we got something. So what should be your mindset as a designer across the life cycle? One, you should be curious, always ask questions. Don't just accept things at surface value. Always ask questions, research. Stay informed about your users and the trends. Be flexible, be adaptable. I already mentioned that. Collaboration. You are not an island. Don't see feedback as a dig at your personality. No, feedback is intended to improve the product. So work with cross-functional teams. Be open to feedback. Test. Do user testing, and then innovate and aim for sustainability. Design for long-term impact. Don't just design for the now. Design for long-term impact. Thank you very much. I hope I made sense. Yeah. So just you can read this. Product lifecycle should influence design priorities. Designers should adapt to different needs at each stage. Balance your creativity, usability, and business goals. You need to balance these three. Very, very crucial. Don't focus on creativity, usability, and ignore user goals, business goals. You are going to be sacked. You are not moving the needle for us. You are just designing fine products. We don't have income. We don't have revenue. We don't have users. You are going to be sacked because you are not contributing to business. The overall aim of a designer is that you are contributing to business. Stand on business. All right. Thank you very much. It was nice having this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elijah. We are really, really grateful for your time. So it's Q&A session. Does anybody have any questions you want to ask? Anybody?
How many minutes do we have?
We have about 5 minutes.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Feel free to ask questions. Might not be necessarily on this topic. It could be relating to it.
Please feel free to ask if you have any. Okay. It's all right if there are no questions. I'm guessing that we have like a lot to like catch up on. I think that for me, one of the things that I picked like from the presentation is how that we are more than pixel like pushers, as he mentioned, and that we have to be like adaptable to like various stages. And it's important for you to understand maybe anywhere you're working at, what phase they are currently in, because they might be in different phases, and so the needs or the needs for a designer or the job of a designer varies based on the life cycle of the product, and that adapting to it is very important, as he has said. And we should not focus on just design. I think it was the first slide that says that insight should drive pixel, should drive business. I think it was like the first slide, something like that. But
Yeah.
the point is just that we don't just jump into like you get design. If you start from Figma, you are probably on your way to failure, sort of. Like if you start from before Figma, like what is happening, why are we building it, what is happening, what is the problem, what does research say, what does data say, and all those things can now inform like you get the pixels that you want to push. And then even when you finish pushing pixel, you must also check that it's also pushing like business at the bottom line, as I said, like are you guys making profits? If not, as I said, we need to find a new job or something. So I think that has been an impactful one. I don't know if anybody has anything that they want to ask or say or add or subtract. Are we going to get the slides?
All right, that's not a problem. I'll compile into a PDF.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? Okay. So if there's no question, thank you so much, Elijah. I don't know if we'll see you again, but would love to really see you again anytime you are available. But thank you so much. Really appreciate like the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you took to actually be here on this call. Thank you so much. I think that we can just have a wonderful day. Let's just enjoy the rest of our day. Let me stop recording.